Julian Lombardi had everything perfectly under control until a single moment shattered his meticulously ordered life. What he witnessed that day left him utterly speechless, but the truth behind it, that would change everything. Stay till the end to uncover the shocking twist. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Julian Lombardi moved through the grand corridors of his estate with the same precise determination that governed every part of his life. His schedule was flawless, his business empire thrived under his command, and his household ran like a well-oiled machine. Surprises? They had no place in his world. That's why, as he passed by the large glass windows overlooking the garden, what he saw made him stop abruptly. His 12-year-old son, Leonardo, was dancing. But he wasn't alone. Dancing alongside him was Isabella, the house cook, a woman Julian had barely given a second glance since hiring her 6 months ago. The sight was so unexpected that Julian blinked multiple times, certain his mind was playing tricks on him. But no, there they were, moving in perfect harmony across the grass. Leonardo's steps were hesitant, unsteady, yet filled with an unusual focus. He stumbled more than once, but instead of frustration, he laughed, a genuine, carefree laugh Julian hadn't heard in years. Since his mother's passing, Leonardo had withdrawn, locking himself away in his own world. And now he was smiling because of her. Isabella moved with a grace Julian had never associated with a cook. Every step, every motion was precise, deliberate, not just playful improvisation but the practiced execution of someone trained in the art of movement. She wasn't merely indulging a child's whim. She was guiding him, teaching him. A cold unease tightened in Julian's chest. He didn't like it, someone else, especially an employee, holding this kind of influence over his son. The longer he watched, the more his irritation grew. He had no patience for this. With stiff, controlled strides, he made his way outside. His sharp footsteps echoed against the stone path. As he approached, both Isabella and Leonardo noticed him. The boy froze, his earlier joy vanishing into apprehension. Isabella, however, remained composed, simply wiping her hands on her apron before straightening to meet Julian's gaze. His voice when he spoke was cool and measured. "What is going on here?" Leonardo lowered his head, but Isabella met Julian's stare without hesitation. "We were practicing, senor," she answered simply. "Practicing what, exactly?" "Your son wanted to learn how to dance." Julian turned his attention to Leonardo. "Since when?" The boy hesitated, shifting uncomfortably. "For a while now," he admitted softly. A sharp pang of guilt struck Julian's chest. He had never noticed. He had never asked. "And why didn't you tell me?" Leonardo lifted his shoulders in a small shrug, but before he could respond, Isabella spoke. "Because he had no one to practice with." Julian narrowed his eyes at her. There was something in her tone, firm, unwavering. It irritated him. "This isn't your job," he stated. "No, it isn't," Isabella agreed. "Then why are you doing it?" She crossed her arms, her expression unreadable. "Because he asked me to." Julian turned back to his son. "Is that true?" Leonardo nodded. A heavy silence settled between them. Julian exhaled slowly, irritation gnawing at the edges of his composure. He had no logical reason to be this bothered, and yet he was. Something about this situation felt off, as if there was a layer to it he couldn't quite see. And that was unacceptable. His gaze shifted back to Isabella. "I need to speak with you. Alone." Leonardo's brow furrowed in concern, but Isabella remained calm. "As you wish, senor." Julian turned sharply, heading back toward the house without waiting for her to follow. But as he stepped inside, he glanced over his shoulder. Leonardo had leaned toward Isabella, whispering something. She responded quietly, her expression unreadable. The boy let out a small, conspiratorial smile. A chill ran down Julian's spine. There was something more to this, something he wasn't seeing, and he was determined to uncover it. Julian sat in his office, fingers steepled beneath his chin, eyes locked on his computer screen. The information before him was ordinary. Too ordinary. Isabella Ruiz, 29 years old. Hired as a cook in his estate 6 months ago. No criminal record. No troubling history. Nothing that stood out. By all appearances, she was exactly what she seemed, a house employee who did her job and stayed out of trouble. And yet, Julian's instincts screamed otherwise. Those instincts had never failed him before. In business, they had built him an empire, allowing him to see through deception, to recognize when things weren't as they appeared. And now, they told him Isabella was not just a cook. A thought nagged at the back of his mind, something about the way she moved. He typed her name into a broader search, adding a single word: Isabella Ruiz. Ballerina. At first, nothing. Then, buried beneath unrelated articles, he found it. A news report from 7 years ago. Julian leaned forward as his pulse quickened. His eyes scanned the headline. Young ballet prodigy disappears from the stage without explanation. He clicked the link. As the page loaded, a photograph filled the screen. Isabella, much younger, dressed in an elegant white ballet costume, poised on a grand stage. Her arms were lifted in perfect form, her expression serene, confident. Nothing like the reserved cook who now worked in his kitchen. The article spoke of a rising star in the ballet world, a dancer with unparalleled talent, on the brink of an international career. Then, without scandal, without warning, she vanished. No explanations. No interviews.
Just gone.
Julian sat back, exhaling sharply. Why would someone with that level of talent abandon their future? And how had she ended up here, working in his house? Questions piled up. Staring at the screen wouldn't give him answers. He needed the truth from her. Standing abruptly, he strode out of his office and made his way to the kitchen. As expected, Isabella was there, methodically cleaning the countertops. She glanced up at his entrance, her expression neutral but guarded. "Señor Lombardi," she greeted, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Is there something you need?" Julian didn't waste time. He pulled out his phone, placing it on the counter. The article was displayed on the screen. Care to explain this? For the first time since he'd met her, he saw it, genuine surprise flickering across her face. It was brief, but it was there. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked at the screen, then back at him. "You've been searching for me," she said. Her voice was calm, but beneath it, something careful lurked. Julian folded his arms. "I don't like mysteries in my home." Isabella exhaled slowly, setting the dish towel down. For a moment, he thought she might refuse to answer. But after a long pause, she finally spoke. "I suppose I should have expected this," she murmured. "You're not the type of man to leave things unanswered." He said nothing. He only waited. She looked at the article again, fingers brushing the edge of the counter. "I was a dancer," she admitted. "A long time ago." "You were more than just a dancer," Julian corrected. "You were a star." A bitter smile ghosted across her lips. A star that burned out before it could shine.